Hello, and welcome to the 2013 Westmont State of the Village Address. My name is Larry Forsberg. I serve as the Executive Director of the Westmont Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau. The Chamber is very pleased to do this presentation today. Both the Chamber and the Village consider this program to be an excellent way to keep the community involved and informed on what's going on in the community. This event is open to all, and we encourage all to attend. Please share with those unable to attend today that the State of the Village Address will be made available online at the Village website. It will also be aired on our local cable channels. Now at this time we have some special announcements to highlight. Let's first recognize our key participants in our program today. I'll begin with our Mayor, Ron Gunter. Our Village Manager, Ron Searle. Community Development Director, Shannon Malik. Finance Director, Spencer Parker. Communications Director, Larry McIntyre. We're also going to introduce our elected officials that are joining us here today. Again, our Mayor, Ron Gunter. Village Trustee, James Addington. Village Trustee, Bruce Barker. Village Trustee, Harold Berry. Village Trustee, Sue Seneca. Village Clerk, Jenny Simsky. Also joining us today, we have Illinois State Representative Ron Sandek. We also have Downers Grove Township Supervisor Frank Worster. Westmont Park District Board Commissioner Diane Main. We have 201 Board President Marie Charlton. Also joining us is 201 Board Member Gary Armstrong. With our Westmont Public Library, we have Board President Amy Porter. And last but not least, we have Westmont Public Library Trustee Elaine Carmichael. Thank you to each and every one of you for everything you do on a daily basis to help Westmont a success. It is truly greatly appreciated. Next, a very special thank you to our Westmont Chamber members, our past presidents, our committee members, and members at large for sharing their leadership and their commitment to the Chamber. We have with us today our Board President, Mr. Greg Pill with the Oakbrook Racquet and Fitness Club. Vice President Al Carson, Carson Communications. Past President and Director David LeBrash with Clarendon Hills Bank. We also have with us Director Kim Baxter with Westmont Park District. Director Umesh Patel with Best Western Oakbrook Inn. Director Pam Wagner with Avon. Not with us today, and those who know our Director, Mary Huska, our thoughts and prayers are with her. For those who know or may not know, her daughter-in-law, Christy, who happens to be the general manager at the Tap House Guild, suffered a brain aneurysm and is in a coma at this point. So please keep Mary and her family in your prayers. I also want to mention with us today our past presidents, Corinne Beller with Oak Properties. Corinne. Past President Lenny Bowen. Past President Lorraine Devricks with Mary Kay Cosmetics. Past President Joe Mappa. Joe also serves as the president of our Westmont Chamber of Commerce Educational Foundation, and a big thank you to Joe for all the work he does to raise funds. On an annual basis, we donate about $6,000 a year to scholarships to our local students. Thank you, Joe. in joining us today, and I want to recognize her for all the great work she's done for our community in the past. Our former Executive Director, Nancy Martins. Nancy. At this time, we're also very pleased to announce our Chamber Gold and Silver members that go that extra distance to help support the Westmont Chamber and the Westmont business community. Our gold members are Baird and Warner, Kim Heller, Clarendon Hills Bank, First Midwest Bank, Inland Commercial Property Management, the Oak Brook Hills Marriott Resort, the Oak Brook Racket and Fitness Club, Cyrus Technologies, and the Village of Westmont. Our Westmont Chamber Silver members are Coldwell banker Mike McCurry, Elite Repeat Resale, Humidor of Westmont, and Magic Rapids. Please give them a warm round of applause for their support. And a special thank you to each and every one of you for being here today. We greatly appreciate your support. It's greatly valued. Again, at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce the president of the Westmont Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Greg Pill. Greg?
Thank you, Larry, and good afternoon, everybody. That was a great meal. I'd also personally like to thank the guys here at NEAT for putting this together, Jason, Dave, and we can't forget Mike, because it is Mike Day. Happy Hump Day, everybody. Anyway, I serve as the president of the Westmont Chamber of Commerce, and on behalf of the board of directors of the Chamber and all of our members, I'd like to welcome you to our 2013 State of the Village Address. The Chamber is proud to sponsor this event in partnership with the Village of Westmont, and we've done so now for over a decade. We're pleased to have each one of you here today to participate and to learn more about our village. Today, there's a lot of economic development activities that are going on within the boundaries of Westmont. These activities include our brand new TIF districts, both the 63rd Street Business District TIF, as well as our Downtown Business District TIF. In addition, we all benefit from a lot of community-wide involvement that we experience in developing the new Westmont Comprehensive Plan. That's something that we spent over 2 years working on. Many of you in the room put your expertise, your comments, and that's a document that we're implementing at this particular time. We know that the future success of Westmont is dependent on all partnerships coming together. All of our stakeholders, and that includes our elected officials, many of whom are here today, our village staff, again, present in the room, the business community, our school system, our community organizations, and all of our residents throughout the village. Everybody has to come together. It does take everybody working together to make the village a success, and this is why we're here today, to celebrate and to support the success of Westmont. Now, at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Larry McIntyre, our new Director of Communications with the Village of Westmont, and Larry's going to provide an overview as to our speakers this afternoon. Larry?
Actually, my real job is to make sure the clicker works, so we're going to try this right now. But I'll go ahead and start talking through the presentation today. It's going to be 4 main speakers. First is going to be Mayor Gunther, and he's going to talk about his first 6 months in office. It's been a very busy 6 months, and he's going to talk through the different things that have happened during that time frame. And then we're going to move on to our Village Finance Director, which is Spencer Parker. And he'll be talking about the village budget. And then in case you did not see the meeting last Thursday, we had a very interesting and informative meeting about our stormwater utility possibility. We've had a committee talking about stormwater management needs, and so Spencer will be talking about that a little bit as well. And then we're going to turn it over to our Community Development Director, Shannon Malik, who's going to be speaking about some of our new economic development initiatives. And then finally turn over to our Village Manager, Ron Searle. So I'll turn it back over to Greg Pill. Thank you.
Yeah, don't take the clicker.
Okay.
Thank you, Larry. At this time, it is my great pleasure to introduce our new Mayor of Westmont, Mayor Ron Gunther. For those of you who do not know Mayor Gunther, here's a brief bio. Mayor Gunther moved into Westmont just a short time ago in 1976. He is a 37-year employee at the Westmont Park District and has served as the executive director for the previous 33 years. He's been married for 35 years to his lovely wife, Tony, and they have 2 children, Brad and Natalie. Mayor Gunter has been very active in our community. Those of you who have been around here know that. He has a distinguished record of community service, being involved with the Westmont Lions since 1979 and serving as the Lions president for 3 terms. He's also been a member of the Westmont Rotary since 1981, and he is also a past president. And he's also been a member of the Knights of Columbus since 1980. Currently, Mayor Gunter serves as a C-SPAR board member, and he also coached the Westmont High School varsity basketball team for 15 years. Our mayor is also well known for being the community parade director. That's sort of an informal title that he has. And for all the local parades that are here in Westmont. Everybody loves a parade, and everyone loves how hard our mayor works. On behalf of Westmont, let's have a warm Westmont welcome for our mayor, Ron Gunter.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you everybody who's here today. This is my first opportunity to represent the village as mayor, and it has been an interesting 6 months. Even before I took office, we were faced with the loss of home rule, which was about a $2 million shortfall. We had a storm that affected the entire community at the end of April. And we were in the midst of passing 2 TIF districts, which had a lot of controversy at the time. We did complete the comprehensive plan, so I basically hit the ground running. And we've addressed, I think we're very fortunate to have the staff we have in this community. I know with the leadership of Ron, and I know Steve didn't get mentioned, but he's Assistant Village Manager, Public Works Director. We were extremely fortunate to have their leadership during a very difficult time when they were addressing the loss of home rule. And I think with the existing board that went off in May, I still have 3 board members present. They did an excellent job providing the framework for the current board. With the loss of home rule, we also lost some additional powers. I think with the staff's direction, we've basically kept our head above water, and we're doing an excellent job. So during the first 6 months, we passed the 2 TIF districts. We're excited about that, and I think Shannon will talk about what we feel will be the anchor down in 63rd Street, Mariano's. We passed the TIF district in the Central Business District. We've also, Greg mentioned, we passed the new comprehensive plan. One of the things that I think the village has never done before that I think we needed to do, we passed a $9.5 million bond issue. And the village has always been a pay-as-you-go. And one of the things that you can never do when you pay-as-you-go is major projects. And a lot of our infrastructure needs work. Our roads, our stormwater, and with this $9.5 million, $8 million is going to be dedicated to resurfacing and redoing our roads. It gives the community, I think you're going to see some in the next 3 years, you're going to see some immediate results. And the other $1.5 million we're going to earmark and use pretty much for stormwater management. With the stormwater, I think Larry talked about, I appointed a stormwater committee, about 15 individuals. They've done a tremendous job. Last Thursday night, they made a presentation to the village board and the community. We're looking forward to implementing some of their recommendations. And I think that committee was representing every area in this community. And I think they unified to basically act as one. When they started out, everybody had their own interests. And I think when they finished through, I know Larry's leadership and Steve Nero, they basically have presented the community with a very comprehensive plan that I think we can move forward and correct some of our stormwater issues. A couple of the things that I started out, and one of the things that I wanted to stress is cooperation and communication, not only externally but internally. And I think we've started doing that now at the village level. I think the current board, we work extremely well together. I think everybody is talking to one another, Staff has done that. And along with that, I wanted to, one of the things we did was one-stop shop. I guess that's the way we're looking at it. We took all the administrative services, the public street department, water department, and put it all at Village Hall. So rather than have people, the residents go to 3 different places, they go to Village Hall now. We've also put our Public Works Department, our Community Development Director. Everybody's out of the Village Hall right now. So that was a key change that I wanted to implement in the first several months. The other thing is you're hearing a lot about is the Westmont First. I can't take credit for that. Bruce Barker, who's here today, had a dream, and he's put it into reality right now. If you haven't heard about Westmont First, I think Bruce will tell you about it. He does a very, very good job of marketing that, and I'm looking forward to some of the programs they're going to implement. I've also been pleased that we've worked out an agreement with the Chamber, and it's a new economic development partnership with the Chamber that basically starting November 1st, but I think Larry and Greg have been working extensively with us, and they've kind of started that already. They're going to be our engine. They're going to be our group to go out and look for new business and also take care of the businesses we already currently have here. So we're excited about that too. I'm very pleased that within my first 6 months, I think what's been very fortunate for me is that I know everybody in pretty much at staff. I think everybody is working for the same goal, is to provide better services to this community. And I couldn't be prouder of where we're at right now. So I'm supposed to do most of the introduction stuff. The staff will be the ones that give you more detail. So what I'd like to do is introduce Spencer Parker, who is the finance director. Did I say that right? Finance director for the Village of Westmont, and he will fill you in on some of the details and some of the things to talk about. Thank you.
Right, I'm going to first go over a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the 2014 budget process, going to talk about the way that the loss of home rule impacted our 2013 budget process. We're going to talk about the revenue trends and economic indicators, and then I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about some of the areas that the mayor just discussed, the bond issue as well as the stormwater utility. So the 2014 budget process is coming up soon. Our fiscal year begins in May, and typically around this time of the year is when we begin preparing our budgets at the department level and then presenting them to the board as it gets closer to April. We're planning to continue this year something that we started last year, which was a change in the way that we do budgets. Previously, we'd focused a lot on the individual line items. This past year, we implemented a program where we started looking at it more as programs and looking at how the changes in the dollars spent will impact the residents and businesses in the community instead of just focusing so much on the line items. Additionally, we've been able to use technology to be able to get some real-time changes. So as we're discussing in the budget meetings, the different possibilities and the decisions, as we consider them, we're able to see the impact on the budget overall. We're planning to continue that this year. And then a new thing that we're going to be doing this year is going to be reaching out and having a public budget workshop a little bit earlier in the process, kind of the 1,000-foot view, look at different ideas and kind of get a good idea of some different things that may be considered as we get closer to April, to get a little bit more input from the community and from the board at the beginning of the process. When we faced this past budget, we were looking at the loss of home rule, and as you're aware, it's a significant loss in revenue. We were looking at a loss of about $2.4 million. However, that was offset by some of the improvement in the economy, which we've been seeing. That helped us by about $1 million. And then through the budget process, we were able to identify about $750,000 of additional revenue sources, leaving us with a net of about $648,000 left to cut through reductions in expenses. And I'm not going to go through and read all these different items in the interest of time, but you can see there's several different things that we did to make the additional cuts. One of the ones that is probably the most noticeable was the reduction of the brush pickup program down to 2 pickups per year. And then we made some other minor changes, maintained vacancies, some of those sort of things. So that, as the mayor put it, we're able to stay above keep our heads above water and be all right. Looking at some of our economic trends, this chart shows the assessed valuation for the village. And as you can see, over the past several years, it's been dipping down. The last couple of years, we've been able to see some impact that indicates it might be improving in the near future. We're cautiously optimistic that it will at least be stabilizing this year due to some improvements in the development permits and the single-family homes that Shannon's going to discuss a little bit further. On a little bit more positive note, we use the University of Illinois Flash Index as a good indicator of the economy, and it's been tracking pretty well with us with our major revenue sources. As you can see, there was a period of time where it had a significant drop, but we're coming out of that and doing much better now. And that is also borne out with our income that is more tied to the economy. So our income tax revenue, for example, you can see had a significant drop, and then it's been improving significantly this past year. Similarly, sales tax revenue had a significant drop, but we've been improving, and we're now at a point where we've got higher sales tax revenue than we had anytime since the drop. It's still not to the levels that we saw before we had the drop, but it's significantly improving, and we're very grateful for that. Similarly, our hotel motel tax revenue is showing a very similar pattern, where again, we're not quite to the levels we were before the drop, but we're doing better than we have since the drop. Again, that's very gratifying. I wanted to go into a little bit more detail about the 2013 bond issue that the mayor just talked about. As many of you are aware, the village has some aging infrastructures that's been on our minds and something we've been interested in addressing for quite some time. And historically, the village has been, as the mayor indicated, a pay-as-you-go, where we would wait till we had the money before making improvements. Recently, the village board came to the decision that we wanted to go forward with bonds. It's something that has been talked about previously, but at this point we decided to move forward with it and get some bonds to be able to take care of that aging infrastructure. We were able to get a very good bond rating of AA+, which is the highest bond rating is AAA, and the one right below that is a AA+. We've got information that indicates we may have saved approximately $300,000 by having that level of a rating, which is good. And the way we were able to get that rating was from a history of good, sound financial decisions that have been made by various different individuals. We've had a lot of the departments that have been focusing very hard on containing costs and making sure we stayed within and even under budget for the past several years. Also, over the past several years, the past several boards, we've had the board making significant decisions to take care of things very responsibly, funding pensions, addressing revenue issues as they come up. So our past boards, as well as our current board, has made a lot of decisions that have really impacted this rating and helped us to be able to get the rating we were able to receive. So we issued $10 million worth of bonds. $8.5 million of the bonds is going to be used for the resurfacing of roads. And then we've got another $1.5 million that's going to be used for something else, likely for stormwater. Now, these bonds are not actually paid through property taxes. Some of the bonds you may have heard of or have seen previously, not in our community, but other places, will be on the property tax rolls. These will not. The village has identified a few different areas that we can use some other revenues to take care of this. We've got our previous debt payment. We've been devoting money to paying off one debt. We're paying off that debt in full and using the revenue stream that had been going towards that to make this debt payment. We also get revenue from the state each year for use for road resurfacing. We've used that as on a pay-as-you-go basis to do a few little projects. Instead of doing that, we're going to be taking that money and devoting it to paying off a bond to be able to do a larger project initially. And then, as you may have also heard, the board adopted a places for eating tax. A portion of that revenue is going to be also going to pay for these bonds for the roads. So every time people eat at a Westmont restaurant and they patronize Westmont businesses, they're helping contribute to paying off the bonds, which is able to improve our roads and give us a lot of improvement in the infrastructure, which we desperately need. Another item that the mayor mentioned was the stormwater utility. We've had a stormwater committee that's been meeting for quite some time and going through a lot of details, identifying a lot of the issues in the community and coming up with some different options for it. The option that they have recommended is the creation of a stormwater utility. There's been some other municipalities in Illinois that have recently created these stormwater utilities, and the basic idea behind a stormwater utility is that it gives an ongoing revenue stream to be able to take care of issues. So we could issue bonds to do some major construction projects initially, but also it provides an ongoing stream to take care of maintenance issues and make sure that we don't get to the same point again. One of the other great benefits that the committee mentioned about this method of funding this is that it's based on the individual or the business's contribution to stormwater runoff. So rather than being based on the value of your house or the amount of money you spend somewhere, it's based on the impervious area and the amount of area that you have that doesn't absorb the water, that pushes the water runoff to the community to take care of it. So it's a much more equitable way to take care of that. We're at the very beginning of the process. The committee only presented the recommendation to the board very recently, and at this point we're now kind of looking forward at going to some feasibility studies, trying to see exactly how it would work, and then also, of course, going to be reaching out to the community to get their input and their involvement in the process. At this point, I'd like to introduce Shannon Malik, our Community Development Director, and turn the time over to her. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to be here to talk about some of the exciting development, things that have been occurring in the village, kind of echoing on some of the good news that Director Parker had mentioned a moment ago. I'm going to start just with a brief overview of the topics for discussion. I will get started with going over the items that the mayor mentioned at the start of the meeting pertaining to our new partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, as well as the efforts to bring Public Works and Community Development Administration staff under one roof. Then I will give you some updates on the long-range planning initiatives that the village has overtaken over the last approximately 2 years or so. That would be the comprehensive plan and the 2 TIF districts. And finally, we'll close up with some statistics on building permit activity. So one of the initiatives that's been very important is this new economic development partnership between the Village of Westmont and the Westmont Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau. There are going to be a lot of opportunities for us to streamline economic development activity. We're looking at the idea of branding the community, creating a unified vision to help us entice economic development activity, and then improving our efforts to assist the business world with site acquisition, site selection, also marketing, retention, and attraction. It's just as important to market to new businesses as it is to work with your existing business community to find out what their needs are and how they can make their home for the long term the Village of Westmont. These are a few initiatives that have taken place over the last year or so that go hand in hand with those economic development activities. First, on the far left, we've passed out copies of this to the group this afternoon, but this is a new marketing piece that was created to help us in our recruitment activities. Over the last year or so, the village has really ramped up its efforts to participate in the International Council of Shopping Centers, which is the group of kind of allied fields in brokerage, retail, development world. We participate in those meetings. We make connections with the business community and make sure that Westmont is on their radar as far as an opportunity to do business. And then we've also done some improvements to the village website on economic development activity. There are some more improvements that are going to be forthcoming, but you can now go to the homepage. There's a QRC link on the cards that are distributed that goes directly to that site, and you'll find information on the state, local, and federal incentives for doing economic development. And then next, I wanted to touch on the combination of the administrative staff for Public Works coming over to Village Hall. We now share space in the Community Development Department, and that transition was complete sometime around mid-August. It's working out very well. We believe in the one-stop shop attitude. This makes it easier for developers, residents, any type of customer to come in and get all of the information that they need in one place without having to go to different buildings within town. It's a single point of inquiry, and it also helps us streamline things with development meetings and staff transmittals as far as doing plan review. Next, I'm going to segue into the exciting parts, the long-range planning work. I'm so pleased and humbled by the community participation that we received during the comprehensive plan rewrite. The plan was adopted earlier this spring, and prior to that, we had a plan that was dated to 1998. It was time with the 2010 census data to revisit that. The comprehensive plan is really the community's roadmap over the next 10 to 20 years. It takes all of the community vision and it channels it into a concise document that lays out what the aspirations are, who we want to be going forward. And then we have this as a tool so that any development that comes in is reviewed and to see if it is in line with the comprehensive plan to make sure that it would achieve our development objectives. And I'd be remiss if I just didn't add that public component, the public outreach was exceptional. We had several workshops. We had a community meeting over at the Park District on a very cold January evening, and a bunch of do-it-yourself kits and website-based survey tools, a community mapping tool, and then a survey that hundreds of residents participated. Our consultant, Halcyon Levine, lauded us for being one of the villages that they recognize as having a very active resident and business base. Next, I would like to talk about the two TIF districts. So TIF is a tool that we've been talking about for the last couple of years. Last year at this time, I reported that we were in the middle of going through the process of creating the two TIF districts. Today I can stand before you pleased to say that the two TIFs have now been adopted. The village had first looked at creating their own first tax increment financing district down on the south side of town at 63rd and Cass Street several years ago, after some market analysis was done that showed that the area was underperforming. It had a mix of zoning uses and wasn't performing to the highest and best use that it could be. So the village board at that time made a concerted effort to recognize that that could be the next east-west retail corridor. It could help offset some of the sales tax revenues that we receive on the Ogden Avenue side if only we could reposition it for success as this retail corridor. So the TIF as a tool, many of you have heard the phrase before, but to try to put it simply, the way that it works is there's a geographic boundary that's studied. That's what you'll see on the map that's shown on the screen here. And then when the TIF goes in place, the property taxes that all of the taxing bodies receive in that geographic area, those taxing bodies will continue to receive that same amount of funding at that set level. But what happens over time, it's a 23-year period defined by state statute. Any incremental growth over that baseline goes into a fund that helps the village incentivize development, make property assemblages happen, make streetscape improvements happen, and really makes for one of the only tools that municipality has access to for economic development in the state of Illinois. And as we were going through the process on the south end of town, we also started exploring the creation of a TIF district in the central business district, loosely settled around the Burlington and Cass area, as you can see on this map. The study here also found that we would be eligible to create a TIF district. So again, both of those TIF districts have been adopted as of earlier this year. What I'll say is that the downtown TIF, we have great bones. We've got great infrastructure. We've got access to the commuter rail. We have some mixed-use projects that were initiated just prior to the economic downturn, so we're starting off with great bones. This TIF will help us, again, incentivize some larger-scale redevelopment, which will hopefully spur that redevelopment activity forward, and we will be able to compete in this region. And then next, I would like to talk about some of our new business activity, kind of spread this out over the three primary business districts. We're fortunate enough to have some of you here with us today. Up on Ogden Avenue, or the Westmont Auto Mile area, we've had several new businesses. Some of them are health related. There's the new Sylvan Learning Center, and then a Pompeii is going into the site that was formerly the home of Emmy's Restaurant. And then, of course, we had some relocations and some expansions. You're all, I'm sure, familiar with the successful Standard Market grocery store, and they have done so well for themselves in their first year or two that they actually had to go forward with a small addition to the wine and cheese section of their store, which is now complete. And then downtown, we've had a lot of activity. We've been fortunate to acquire a couple of new restaurants. So, of course, Neat, who is our gracious host this afternoon, and the Sweet and Savory Spot. We also have a new market store, a corner store at 4 West Burlington, our new State Farm Insurance office, and then there's a new watch and jewelry repair on the south side of the tracks along Cass Avenue. And we also had a number of businesses that chose to stay in Westmont by relocating from one property to another. That would be Irv Kaplan Interiors, Oakwood Lighting, and then we've seen the return of La Petite Suite. And then finally, on the south side of town, we have some development activity as well. There was a site that was formerly the home of a Fifth Third bank branch that Chase Bank is in the process of going into. It should be opening up relatively soon. Then we have received zoning approvals on the Mariano's project, which I'll talk about a little bit further in the next slide. And 2 businesses relocated within that corridor as well, the Glidden Paint Store and Saffron. So what you see on the screen is the rendering of the proposed Mariano's building. This is to be located at 150 West 63rd Street. It's located within the South Westmont Business District and that South TIF. The Planning and Zoning Commission and Village Board have granted approval for this project. The site is a currently vacant 2-parcel area comprised of 9.5 acres. The store that you see would be approximately 71,000 square feet, bringing approximately 400 to 450 jobs to the village of Westmont. The planning here and the timing is such that this is the first large-scale project that would be occurring in the South TIF. And that's great news because when you get a large project at the front end of a TIF, you start building that increment much more quickly because the property values rise not only of this property, which was largely tax exempt, but the surrounding properties should have a similar benefit. So this type of project, again, at the front end is good news for us. We feel very strongly that it will also serve as a catalyst for other development opportunities down there. These are just a few photos on a nice sunny day of some of our additions and new businesses. So we've got Irv Kaplan Interiors, the Standard Market addition, the La Petite Suite new location, Chase Bank, Neat, and of course Sweet and Savory Spot. And then I'm going to wrap up with some pretty good news, I think. If you look at the chart, this summarizes the building permit activity. This is across all building permit types. And you'll see there's a 2-color column for this year. We only have data through September 30th. So the pink part is the estimate based on the last several years of what we anticipate will occur through the close of the calendar year. But you'll see we're maintaining. We had a big increase from 11 to 12, and we are on track to stay comparable with the numbers that we saw last year. So building permit numbers of 1,140. And even more exciting is that we are seeing the rebound of the single-family residential market in Westmont. So again, this data goes back to 2007. 2008 is when the economic collapse occurred. You can see the gigantic drop-off. We had 24 single-family permits in 07, down to 3, and then that held steady at very low numbers up until about mid-2012 or so. So this year we're on track to do slightly better than last year even. But as we were putting these slides together, I learned that we actually have 2 more that are in progress. So that number should actually be 20. So we're even closer to that 2007 number than we were. And here are just a few pictures of some of the new single-family home activity that I'm sure you've seen as you've been driving through the village streets. And with that, I will turn it over to Village Manager Ron Searle.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Shannon. As the speakers were introduced, I was struck by the slide that we have 2 very young rising talents here in the village, sandwiched by 2 elder statesmen. And we've used the last couple of years as an opportunity to show off the young talent that we've been grooming here, and you guys did a great job, and I want to say thank you. I also wanted to introduce the rest of our management team. It's a little challenging here because of the light, but I know the 2 chiefs are here. We've got Deputy Chief or Fire Chief Weiss and Chief Tom Mulhern. And I know the mayor already mentioned Public Works Director and Assistant Village Manager Steve May. And we've got Deputy Chief Jim Gunther and Deputy Fire Chief Jim Connolly. And I know she was here earlier, I'm kind of jumping around, but Patty Milkarski, who is our administrative assistant, which got to give her credit, she does a tremendous job for us and keeps us all on task. And Kathy Casey, who I don't believe is here, our HR director, would be the other person, our other department head. We have our one of our other division heads here, Glenn Liljeberg, our IT manager. And our deputy village clerk is not here, but Carrie K. Mack is part of that management team as well. So I don't think I missed anybody. So, okay, so my role is to, and I'm a little, sorry, I'm used to having a better angle to look at the slides. But my role is to kind of give a wrap-up and summary of the presentation and some of the activities that have been going on here in the village of Westmont. I think I will kind of describe it as connecting the dots. If you haven't already figured this out, what we're really talking about here is enhanced communication. I think historically governments have tended to rely on, the traditional ways of communicating stuff. Putting it out on an agenda, putting it out in a legal notice, or having it on an agenda, having it discussed. And with the new age that we've all entered, and we all have these little devices, or most of us do, we're all very connected, and the new generation, of course, expects for us to have interaction with these tools in a way that we haven't in the past. And I think Mayor Gunther recognized that we needed to enhance communication, as he said, both internally and externally. And that's kind of the theme here, and you'll see how all of these things kind of tie into that. Kind of what we're doing is telling people what they don't know, is how I would phrase it. We're trying to use as much one-way communication to put information out there to give people an opportunity to find out what's going on so that we can find out from them what we need to know. And here, I won't read these bullet points, but we'll go on to the next slide. Each of these different entities kind of ties into this. The Westmont First is truly a volunteer program at heart. But when I first heard about it from Trustee Barker, it struck me in two ways. First of all, we've had a tremendous history of volunteerism in this community, and it would, do great service to continue that tradition. But also, it also helps enhance communication. And what I mean by that is the more people you have involved and engaged, they're going to share information with their neighbors, and they're going to know what's going on, and they're going to communicate back and forth, and we'll get feedback. But the next point I was going to cover was the mayor's initiative, Coffee with the Mayor. And truly, this new program has been very successful. As you'll see on the slide here, we've had great participation. The best one we had, and I'll mention the ones we've had so far. We've had Brood Awakenings, La La Lee. No, I'm sorry, La La Lee is, yeah, we had the La La Lee. I'm sorry, Standard Market, Westmont Library. Harvest Grill was the last one we had, and we had our best participation there. And we've had a great opportunity to have a dialogue with the community. And the next one that we have coming up is La Petite Suite. And I know that our communications director and our mayor would love to hear from anybody else that would like to host these events in the future, because we want to continue this as we move forward. As I said earlier, communication is kind of the theme. As a result of budget challenges, we had to cut back our communications, as many communities did during the challenging economy for a while. But we came across, and I know, I recall the trustee Seneca, and I don't recall who else it was, but came across this publication a couple years ago at IML, and we took a look at it again last budget year and determined that this was a great vehicle to continue to enhance our communication. It's like a magazine piece that people would probably keep in their home for a while. Gave us the opportunity to integrate both the paper publication as well as the website, because they have a website as well that includes a calendar, and each publication, each issue has a two-month calendar in it. And then you can go online and you can get additional information as well as at our village website. It's delivered to every home and business in the community, local news features in every issue. Mike Bogert is here, and she works for the publication. I know she'd be interested in talking to anybody, including representatives from any of the other taxing bodies that would like to have more involvement. From the very beginning, we wanted this to be a community communication tool, and we want everybody involved, and we try to design it that way. And I should point out, because we got a lot of comments here, we have our two chiefs featured here. And I won't say anything else other than you might want to keep an eye on the board meeting coming up this week. Okay, community events. Thanks to the many of the volunteer organizations that we have and the great weather we had this year, we probably had our most successful year ever with community events. And of course, we need to thank the Westmont Auto Mile. They've been a tremendous partner for us the last few years to help fund some of these events. And we would love to see that partnership continue in the future. We had the Red, White, and Barbecue back in May, and it was hosted, as it was originated by the Westmont Lions Club. It was also featured on the Barbecue Pitmaster show. So it drew some additional national attention to the village, and it was a great event. The Westmont Street Fair was a great success this year, had a new layout, averaged over 100 cars and 1,000 people each week. Again, I think the weather had a great deal to do with that, but that's something you can't control. The Taste of Westmont, 4th of July, Trick or Treat Trail, Holidays, all these events. I would challenge you to look around at our neighboring communities and find, a calendar of more community events and that are successful community events than what the Village of Westmont has. We look forward to continuing that. That we also see as an opportunity to continue to enhance communication. It provides an opportunity to bring our community together for discussion and dialogue. Oh, sorry, I almost forgot. And this was mentioned by Trustee Barry the other day at our board meeting. We're going to be looking to create some new events based on the past. And it's just, at this point, we're calling it a community old-fashioned fun competition. And I'll just leave that as a teaser. You want to kind of pay attention to that. I think it's going to be something that's going to be really great and very exciting for the village. Okay, in addition to that, I wanted to kind of summarize some of the earlier comments that were made. Again, I apologize, I'm at a bad angle here. We did have a very severe flood event this past spring. As you know, we've been seeing more and more extreme events that's been affecting all of us throughout the area. And the board and the mayor, under his new leadership, created the new volunteer stormwater committee that just gave its report. It's going to continue to interact with the village. And as was explained earlier, we're looking at some mechanism to be able to fund and improve our stormwater enhancements. We had the 90th anniversary celebration on October 13th with the fire department. It was a great success. Got a chance to rebrand the what was originally called Fire Station Number 3, but its headquarters station now is Frank Johannick Fire Station. And then the police department started an initiative, and this is not really a positive thing in our society today, but as we all know, we're more at risk. Everybody's more at risk with some of the tragic events that have occurred in some of our schools, and the police department has been actively involved for a number of years in providing training to help deal with those kind of situations. But they rolled out a new program this year that's called ALICE, and it teaches students how to respond to dangerous intruder situations, and that's been well received in the community. And of course, I mentioned earlier how we've had such a strong tradition of volunteerism here in the village of Westmont. One of the mainstays of that has been our Westmont Emergency Management Agency. It's entirely a volunteer agency, and they had their best group in the county, well, they are the best group in the county, but they have expanded their roles and they continue to serve our community well, and we look forward to enhancing that. Okay, final comments. Our village, as you saw from the finance director's presentation, we believe is on an economic rebound. We're seeing that throughout the area, that this is not unique to Westmont, but we're very optimistic. We've always been optimistic that things would recover to some extent, but we're really looking forward to a lot of the new initiatives that we've also talked about. We talked about the Economic Development Initiative with the Chamber. We're very happy to engage with them, and we believe that's going to be a great program for the village, and we're in a position where the economy is rebounding, where that's going to work very well for us. We finished the planning initiatives, the two TIF districts. First time, as you know, that we've had TIF districts here in Westmont. We finished the comp plan review and revision. And of course, we had great community events, and volunteers are the best in the state of Illinois. At this point, I'm going to open it up for questions because, as I said earlier, we're more interested in hearing what people want to say or questions you may have instead of us just presenting information to you. So I'll be happy to entertain questions. If I can't answer them, I'm going to have one of our other speakers address that. So who's first? Second? Comments? No? Oh, Bob. Thank you, Bob.
It's really not an important question. I'm just curious if at these coffees they realize now how much coffee the mayor drinks.
I tell you, I have. Yeah, I've known the mayor for many years, and I knew he drank coffee, but not to the extent that I've seen and witnessed, yeah. So, no, I haven't got any comments about that, so I don't know. Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry, I can't see who that is. It's kind of bright. Yes. Chief, I told you they were going to ask that question. And I looked it up on the internet because he wouldn't tell me. It's alert, lock down, inform, counter, and evacuate. And he would tell me, but I just like to use the internet. So, any other questions? Questions about that in particular? No? Okay. Yes?
Is the Maggiano thing absolute positive?
Mariano's, yes. Yeah, that's a different concept, but yeah. Well, we are very optimistic about it. It's as definite as any kind of real estate transaction, and we've all probably been through those, so we know how those work, but we're very optimistic about this going forward. This is the farthest we've been in, along in steps, so. Yes? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time. Oh, well, I could let our Public Works Director come up here maybe if you have more specific questions, but we're beginning the program with this bond issue, and we're going to be expending this over 3 years, I believe, and we just got done redoing a study that hadn't been done in probably about 10 years, where we did a laser study of our streets, and we have a scientifically ranked order of how the streets should be repaired, and we're using that list as our basis to begin identifying which ones we're going to do first and then move forward. But that's our anticipated plan at this point. Yes? Oh, that's a question that always comes up. I could give an answer, but Steve...
These are all very good questions, and it's not a quick answer, but the reason the bond issue was split up into two parts, the $8 million and the $1.5 million, is that the $8 million is dedicated to the resurfacing of the streets. It's a type of operation that I don't want to describe it. The bond has to be repaid with motor fuel taxes, so the type of work that you do has to be motor fuel tax eligible. The other $1.5 million that was referenced for stormwater, and it's true it can be used for stormwater, but it can be used for anything, all the other types of work that we have, whereas the $8 million is restricted to certain types of work. So we certainly have a strong interest in getting into the alleys, particularly in the central business district, the paved alleys too. But if the question is about residential alleys, that's a much bigger program and kind of a reconstruction or a rebuilding, and that's a little more complex. So that is not immediately being considered with the initial projects.
Hope that was satisfactory. Any follow-up question or any other questions? Mayor, do you want to?
No, but I do want to thank the chamber and like they said, I've been here 37 years. I've seen the chamber at the lowest point. I cannot tell you how proud I am to be in this community with the chamber and what they're doing for this community. And it's evident with us working in agreement with them as far as their economic development. I think with Larry's leadership, I think we've been very blessed to have him in this community. So again, I thank you for hosting this today and on behalf of the village. Is that a good time to turn it back over to you? There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I want to say thank you to Mayor Ron Gunther. Thank you to our Community Development Director, Shannon Mail, Spencer Parker, our Finance Director, Ron Sierra, our village director, Larry McIntyre, our communications director, for your presentation today. It was very informative. We value this opportunity to get together and share this type of information, and we truly value the opportunity to work together as a group. At this point, I'd like to say a special thank you to Neat Kitchen and Bar, and I'd like to invite them to come up for just a moment. If Jason and Mike and Dave can just come up here for a moment. They've took this vacant building, as you can see, they've transformed it into a beautiful restaurant. And I'd like to give them an opportunity to share with you a little bit about the vision that you have for Neat. Gentlemen, come on up.
Well, first of all, we'd like to thank Larry for choosing us as the venue to host this. This is a great event, very informative for us, and it's very nice to see everyone here, and it's a lot of familiar faces in the crowd that have already been patronizing us, which we really do appreciate, and hope the ones that haven't been in here before are going to come back and see us real soon. But we, the three of us, we're very happy that we chose to open up our business in Westmont. As many of you know, opening up a small business is not an easy thing to do, and there's a lot of obstacles and, you know, financial risks that goes into it. And working with Westmont, the village and the chamber really helped to minimize some of those risks and expedite the whole process of opening up a restaurant and being able to do what we did, you know, in the transformation of this building and the business. You know, us personally here at Neat, we're constantly trying to improve our business, grow our business, and to meet, and not only meet, but exceed the expectations that our customers have. And it's very refreshing to see that both the chamber and the village of Westmont are working just as hard as we are to make it a great place for the residents and the businesses alike. So I'd also just like to say too, I would encourage any other businesses or restaurants or shops that are thinking about opening up or relocating to come to Westmont, because we've had such a great experience. So we think from the beginning, we thought this area has got a great potential, and we thought we'd be a good addition to the already great businesses and restaurants that are already here, and we hope to see a bunch more popping up. I mean, we don't think there's any reason why Westmont, especially this downtown area, can't be similar to see the same kind of success that LaGrange, like downtown LaGrange or downtown Downers has seen in the last 10, 15 years. So yeah, and I don't think you guys got anything to say.
No, I'd just like to, like Mike said, just thank you everybody for coming, and again Larry for choosing us for this. And like he said, it's very nice to see a lot of our regular customers in here, and we just hope more success for ourselves and certainly the town. The more businesses are here and the more people that come, it just benefits everybody. I'm a Westmont resident myself. I live right by the Veterans Park, so moved here about 5 years ago. We love the town, and I'm just happy to be here. My commute's very short, so that's great too. So yeah, we're just very happy to be here, and we hope all the success to Westmont going forward. So thank you very much again for coming.
Thanks, Larry.
Great job. And thank you again to our friends at Neat for doing a great job today. That's basically the conclusion of our program. I want to remind everybody to shop, dine, discover Westmont first, and we will basically work together to be a very successful community for many years to come. Thank you, and thank you for joining us today.